Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. So in today's video, I am gonna be talking all about cast iron skillets. If you guys are new around here, my name is Becca. I'm a registered dietitian and I share lots of content here on my channel about nutrition and wellness, non-toxic living, a little bit of lifestyle and motherhood as well. So if you're new, I would absolutely love for you to subscribe. But in today's video, we are gonna be talking all about cast iron and I'm really excited for this. So cast iron is amazing, you guys, for so many different reasons, and I'm gonna get into all of the benefits of using it. But first I wanna give a little bit of background. So probably like 6, maybe 9-ish months ago, I got my first cast iron skillet, and I took forever to finally buy one because I was just under the impression that not only were they like hard to use, but they were really like high maintenance because they needed this like thing called seasoning over and over, and they just sounded like really difficult. And now I knew that they were totally non-toxic and like the safest, one of the safest options out there as far as stovetop cooking and baking and things like that. But I just was like scared by the fact that they sounded so high maintenance, and I just never pulled the trigger. Now we actually used to use non-stick pans, like Teflon pans, which is not something I'm really jazzed about because if you don't know, they're not great. They can leach chemicals into your food. Teflon is a wonderful invention as far as non-stick goes, but there's a lot of drawbacks as far as what is actually used to make that. There is a whole, we actually just recently watched, now I knew it was bad before, but we watched the movie, I think it's Dark Waters, really eye-opening, scary. It's based on a documentary called The Devil We Know, which is all about Teflon. So if you're still using your non-stick pans and you haven't been convinced yet, go ahead and watch those because you don't need to use those for a non-stick surface because cast iron is your friend, and you will be shocked at how well this works. And they're so much better. So let's get into why that is. Okay, when it comes to cooking, cast iron are amazing for conducting heat. So across the skillet, you're going to get a really, really nice even heat. They're a very heavy bottomed pan. So they are just going to conduct heat beautifully, which makes for really excellent surface medium for cooking. If you like your food to crisp up, so maybe you like really crispy potatoes or a crispy edge on your pancakes, things like that, you are going to love cast iron because it's really good at helping food crisp up, not only just with the heat, but also because it requires a decent amount of fat in order for it to be a good cooking medium, which fat helps things crisp up. They're also very versatile. So you can cook on your stovetop with your skillets and then go ahead and pop them right in the oven. They can handle both of those things, which is really nice for a lot of different recipes that require both. They last forever. If you properly take care of your cast iron skillets, which again, it's not that difficult, we'll get to that in a second, but if you take care of them, you can have them for your entire life and then pass them down onto future generations. That's how long these pans last. They are very tough, they are so durable, and you can have the same skillet through your whole life, and it honestly just keeps getting better with age. They're also pretty cheap. You can get, now this is a 12-inch skillet, so it's pretty big, it's heavy. And I think this was like around $40. I will link it down below. I got it on Amazon. It's the Lodge brand, but you can get like a 9-inch skillet, which is great for eggs and just obviously smaller type things you're gonna be cooking. And you can get that for like $10, $12. I mean, they really are very inexpensive, and especially because they are going to last you a lifetime if you take care of them, versus like non-stick pans, they do have to be replaced every few years. They are so easy to clean and maintain, which this was something that I thought was really difficult. Now, when it comes to cast iron skillets, when I use it on the stove, again, you have to use some kind of fat when you're cooking with it. I literally, when I'm done, most of the time nothing sticks to it. I will literally wipe it out with like a towel or a paper towel and leave it on my stovetop, and that is all I do. I don't go in and scrub it. You are not supposed to use soap on your cast iron skillets. So you actually end up cleaning them less than you would a nonstick pan. So if something does stick to it, I will kind of explain what I do, but generally that doesn't happen. So I wipe them out and I move right along. Now, when it comes to maintaining your cast iron skillets, there is this thing called seasoning. And that is basically when you use some kind of oil or fat to coat the entire pan and you bake that fat in so it can kind of fill in all the little grooves and create essentially a nonstick surface within the cast iron skillet. Now, I thought before I got into this, I was like, I'm gonna have to season this all the time. I don't even know what that means. It just sounds difficult. Like, I just was like, I don't have time for this. But you guys, you season the pan once when you get it, which this one is a brand new one I just bought. So I'm gonna show you guys the entire process of seasoning. But if you're continually using your skillets, I use mine every day, and you're continually cooking with it, and obviously that means you're cooking with fat, it just kind of gets re-seasoned on its own every day. It's getting a layer of fat in that pan, coating it, so it just kind of naturally gets seasoned on its own. It's not something you're gonna have to continue to do if you are using it frequently. So if you're anything like me, when you first get your skillet, you season it that one time, and then mine literally just stays on top of our oven, on our stovetop. I don't even put it away because I literally use it at least probably twice a day. So it's always getting used, it's always just out and ready, and I'm just wiping it out in between uses. So a little bit of that fat is staying behind to, again, season that skillet even more, and that is why it gets better with age. Okay, so next I wanna go through the process of how to season your cast iron skillet. So it's very easy, it's mostly hands off, and your oven is doing most of the work for you. But basically, like I said, the reason you're seasoning it is just to kind of fill in all of the little grooves on your cast iron skillet, and it will create, you can see kind of like this patina, shiny surface, which means it is essentially non-stick. So all you do is you grab your skillet, and you're gonna need some kind of fat. I use coconut oil because I just have so much of it, but any fat will work. And I just kind of work it into the pan with like a little towel. I just really coat the pan with a really nice slick coating of that coconut oil, and then I just go in and make sure that no excess is left over. And you want to take this coconut oil or whatever fat that you're using, you want to take it all over the entire pan, the inside, the outside, the handle, everything. And once you've got a really nice coating of coconut oil on that pan, go ahead and stick it in your oven for an hour at 450 degrees. So after that baking process, you most likely will be okay to start cooking with it. You may have to repeat the process, just kind of look at it and see if it's got a nice shine on it. If you're purchasing a brand new pan, like I bought this large one off of Amazon, one, maybe twice will definitely do it. But if you're finding like an old, you know, passed down cast iron skillet in like a antique shop or a thrift shop or something like that, it's probably going to need a bit more help. So in that case, you're probably going to need at least 2, if not more, steps, and you basically just re-season it a few times in a row following the same steps until you have that nice shine and that nice finish, and then you can start cooking. When it comes to cleaning your cast iron skillet, I kind of touched on this. Most of the time, I literally just wipe it out while the pan is still hot. That way, if anything is somewhat stuck on there, it just wipes right out. I will just wipe it out, leave whatever little bit of fat is left behind, and it's seasoning my pan, and I can kind of use that towards my next cooking. I still will add more fat, but it's there and it's seasoning the pan. Now, if stuff gets stuck, if you're using your pan properly, which I'm gonna share 2 major mistakes that I was making in the beginning because I had no idea what the heck I was doing. If you don't make those 2 mistakes, you should be able to basically, for the most part, have a non-stick situation with your cast iron skillet, which means things aren't really gonna be sticking to it and you're just gonna be able to wipe it out when you're done. But some stuff does stick, it's not always perfect. So in that case, what I do is under really hot water, I will just get it wet, and I will just kind of use my like stainless steel spatulas, like flippers, and I will just kind of scrape it off. Technically, you're not really supposed to do that if it's something that's really stuck on, but 9 times out of 10, I can just use my regular sponge with no soap on it. You don't want any soap near your cast iron skillet because that's gonna pull the fat off. I will just take like the scrubber side of the sponge, which is not that rough, and that is usually enough to get anything that's stuck off of the pan. And again, then I'll just rinse it with the hot water. Every once in a while, I need to go in there a little bit with my spatula and scrape something off, but that really doesn't happen that often. And then the biggest thing with cleaning, outside of not using any soap on it, you wanna make sure it is getting fully dry. So with a towel, completely dry it, or let it out to air dry before you're putting it away, because any water left on your cast iron skillet will cause rust. They rust very, very easily, but it's very easy to avoid that. Just make sure you're always drying it off. Some people even will put it back on the stovetop on heat, and that will help to just evaporate any water and dry it completely. Either way works, just make sure you're always completely drying it before you're putting it away. Okay, and lastly, this might be the most important part of the video. I wanna share with you the 2 mistakes that I was making over and over and over again, because when I first got my skillet, I was just like excited and I just didn't really research it, and I was just like starting to use it as if it was a nonstick pan, which it's not a nonstick pan, and there are a couple things you wanna be doing differently in order to create that nonstick surface. So the first thing is you always need to use a pretty generous amount of fat, whether you're using butter or coconut oil or avocado oil or whatever you have. Those are the 3 things I use the most. You wanna make sure that you're really getting a good amount of fat in there, because that is going to create a fat layer between the food and the pan, which is gonna keep it from sticking. But on top of that, you always wanna make sure that your pan is completely preheated. This is not something that I knew before. I understood the fat part, but I didn't understand the whole preheating situation. So I would use my pan when it wasn't exactly up to heat yet, and that is when things will stick like crazy. So before you put anything in your pan, you wanna make sure it's nice and hot. And one of the easiest ways to know that is just what the fat source that you put in there, what it's doing. So for something like butter, it's gonna start to sizzle. That's when you know pan is ready to rock and roll and you can add your food. Something like coconut oil or olive oil, it becomes like very runny. You can move the pan around and it's just like swirling around in that pan. It's not like thicker, which it is at like a room temperature. So those are the 2 things that I look for to know that my pan is hot and ready, and my fat source is hot and ready, and I can start cooking without any sticking. Okay, you guys, so that is it for all of my cast iron skillet tips. I'm going to leave a couple links down below, including a blog post that goes over all of this information, as well as a links to a bunch of these skillets, which is what I use and I like. Again, they are cheap. They will last you forever as long as you take care of them. And they are a much healthier cooking surface because they are not leaching any kind of chemicals. You are not having any kind of toxins mingling with your food. And other than something like a stainless steel skillet, which is the same, like it's a non-toxic option, you can create that really nice non-stick surface, which will make your cooking so much easier. And I promise you, once you get the hang of them, you will become obsessed and you will wonder why this is not the norm and why people don't just use cast iron. I mean, everyone used to use cast iron, all of our ancestors, that was their go-to, but now we have all these other options and it's kind of like, why are we even using these other options? Because cast iron really is awesome. You're gonna be obsessed, I'm telling you. But that is all I have for this video, guys. I hope you enjoyed it and I hope you learned something new, and I hope this inspired you to try out cast iron. If it's something that you've been like dragging your feet on and just thinking was really difficult like I did, don't be scared. It's so easy. If you follow my tips and you make sure you're taking care of it properly, you are going to love it so much and you're gonna be upset that you didn't start using it sooner. Make sure to subscribe if you haven't already, and I would absolutely love for you to follow me over on my Instagram as well. But that is all I have for today. Thank you guys so much for watching, and I will see you in the next video.